Hey guys, welcome back to the 6th Gear Garage, where I'm currently working on this 2009 Toyota Camry LE that I picked up for only 500 bucks. Last week, I diagnosed the transmission fluid leak and found it was actually coming from a fitting on the bottom of the radiator, which also acts as a transmission cooler on most automatic cars. I bought a new radiator, which actually came with the metal line and fitting I needed for 60 bucks. So today, I'm going to show you the steps to install a new radiator in a 2007 to 2013 Toyota Camry. First, locate the pitcock valve on the bottom of the radiator. It's going to be easier to see where it is on the new one over here. I've got a long, flat Tupperware storage container that fits under the front of the car to catch the coolant I'm about to drain. Alright, I have the container set up below the petcock. In the engine bay, Toyota conveniently placed a hole in the driver's side lower splash shield right below the petcock valve, so I don't have to take that off to drain the coolant. And if the coolant's clean, I'll reuse it. You can see it trickles right into the Tupperware storage bin through that hole. And also, remove the cap on the radiator to help it drain faster by allowing air in to displace the fluid that's draining. And while that's draining, it's a good time to plug all the electrical connectors for both cooling fans. This air intake's in the way. It's held on with two 10mm bolts, and it just pulls right off of the airbox. Because the cooling fan assembly is going to come out with the radiator as one unit, I have to detach this wiring harness. And these clips, they pop right out. This tool is designed to get clips behind door panels. It works great for all kinds of stuff. Set the harness out of the way and we'll move on to the radiator hoses. The lower hose is in a tight spot, while the upper hose is easy to get to. See on the new radiator over there, that lower hose attaches on the bottom right corner. So rather than mess with that, I'll just detach it at the water pump and take it out with the radiator. I'll take the upper hose off at the radiator and it can stay with the engine. Because this is an automatic vehicle, there are two lines from the transmission that connect to hoses that go to the radiator. The other end of this hose connects to a metal line that goes into the radiator, but those are in a tight spot, so I'll just disconnect them right here and swap the rubber hoses to the new radiator while it's out of the car. I like to use vice grips when it comes to these OEM hose clamps. I'm just going to slide it down past the neck of the water pump so I can get the hose off. Grab it real tight and twist while pulling, and it should eventually slide off. Same thing goes for the upper hose, and it'll also slide off. Now, a different Toyota Camry I looked at had a big plastic cover over this entire area that helps divert air toward the radiator. Now, I'm not sure why mine came without this cover, but you'll need to take that cover off first if your car still has it. Then, you'll be able to see all the bolts you'll need to remove in order to take this whole metal piece off to access the radiator. All 4 bolts are 10mm. To reach the front two, I'm using a wrench since they're tucked down behind the bumper cover. Next, there's a vertical support beam here that I need to unbolt to remove this top panel. There's a bolt on top here and another one below the hood latch assembly. Both of these bolts are also 10mm. This is the hose that carries coolant to the expansion tank. I'm just going to pull this guy off and set it aside for now. Alright, the coolant's done draining, so I'm going to put a lid on here to keep any dirt out since it's a windy day here in Ohio. With that out of the way, I'm good to disconnect the lines going from the transmission to the radiator. I've already slid down the clamps using vice grips. Now here's a trick I use to help separate the rubber line from the metal pipe. Being clamped on for so long can cause the hose to become kind of seized to the pipe. There's a bead roll in the metal line that I can use to push the top of the hose away with a wrench. And once the hose starts to move, it'll be a lot easier to pull off by hand. Now lift up the metal panel to reveal the radiator, but there's still one more thing to unbolt. The AC condenser is bolted to the radiator. There's 4 10mm bolts holding it on, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. With the condenser detached, I can finally remove the radiator from the car. Notice, there are rubber insulators at the top and bottom of the radiator. Looking where the radiator was sitting, I can see the driver's side insulator has stayed with the vehicle and the passenger side came out with the old radiator. So I'll be sure to transfer it over to the new radiator before I install it. Now, anytime you have a new radiator, it's a good idea to flush it first before installing. Just stick a hose in the top and let the water run through to wash out any possible debris or maybe metal shavings left inside from being manufactured. This way, anything won't end up in your engine's cooling system. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is to stand it up and let the water run out the bottom. But it's actually better if you lay it down to make sure that the water reaches the entire inside of the radiator and fills all the way up. And then pour it out. Now I need to transfer everything from the old radiator to the new one. This means that the cooling fan assembly and any hoses that are in good condition and can be reused. And this is the ideal time to install the lower hose while the radiator is out of the car and there's plenty of room to work. And now, with the fans and hoses installed, I'm ready to drop in the new radiator. An extra set of hands would be ideal here to hold the condenser forward and help guide the lower hose in, but I took it slow and was able to do it myself. Just double check to see that the bottom feet of the radiator are properly seated using the rubber insulators. Alright, I should have pointed this out before. I found that if you unplug both of these two horns, the entire metal panel can be set out of the way because only the hood latch cable will be attached. And that's an easy way to get a lot more room to work. Alright, it's time to reattach the condenser to the new radiator with these 4 10mm bolts. Here's the 2 rubber isolators that go on top of the radiator. They go on top of these 2 pegs, and then they line up through these 2 big holes in the top metal panel. Next, the panel can be bolted back in place with the 4 10mm bolts and also the 2 10mm bolts on the vertical support. Reconnect the 2 rubber lines for the transmission, and then the upper hose and the lower hose. Next, I'm going to reinstall the harness and plugs for the cooling fans. Remember, this Camry is missing that front plastic cover that spans across the entire metal panel here, so I only have this plastic air intake to put back on. Don't forget about this hose for the expansion tank. Now I'm transferring the coolant into a bucket because that's going to be a lot easier to pour into the radiator using a funnel. The last bit of coolant has a little bit of dirt in it, so I'm just going to not add that. Now, I have to slowly pour the coolant into the funnel so that it doesn't spill out the radiator. This took a lot longer than I expected. I'm going to move the car back to a dry spot in the driveway and check for any leaks. There were a few drips, but it was just residual from what I had spilled when pouring the coolant. After the engine has been running and the coolant has cycled through the system, I needed to top off the coolant a little bit more. I'm making sure the expansion tank is also filled to the correct level. I'm checking the transmission fluid level per the owner's manual. And I'm done. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions or tips, let me know in the comments below. I read them all. I'm going to be fixing up this car between other projects for a little while, so subscribe for future updates. Bodywork and touch-up paint is coming up next on the list. And here are the 2 rubber Here are the 2 rubber Oh my gosh. Here's the 2 rubber isolators that go on top of the radiator. They slide over the 2 pegs. Here are the 2 rubber isolators that go on top of the radiator. They need to go over the 2 pegs and then they line up through these 2 big holes in that top metal panel.